10. Betting on death. 16-year-old Joshua Davies has been sentenced to 14 years in prison for beating his ex-girlfriend to death with a rock after his friend bet him a free breakfast that he wouldn't do it. Rebecca Aylward had her skull crushed for no other reason than to get some free pancakes. It was a heinous crime, one that the victim's mother has said she hopes Joshua will suffer pain and torment for committing for the rest of his life. It all began when Joshua and Rebecca broke up. According to sources close to both of them, Joshua developed a deep hatred for Rebecca after their relationship terminated. He regularly joked with friends that he was planning to kill Rebecca, a girl who was only 5'2". Most people never took these comments seriously, but some were still disturbed by the things he was saying. Joshua said he would poison her, maybe drown her in a river, or throw her off the edge of a cliff. Then in a text message over Facebook with one of his friends, the bet with a breakfast came up. His friend actually encouraged him to do it, saying it would be the best breakfast he ever paid for. He even called him sadistic, adding a smiley face at the end of the message. On the day of the murder, Rebecca was in a much different state of mind than Joshua. She purchased a new outfit to meet him, believing they were going to get back together. Her sister said she was dancing and singing before they met up. But when Joshua picked her up and brought her to a wooded area, things took a violent turn. He picked up a rock and ended her life by bashing her head in. 9. The Super Bowl bet. A man who made a Super Bowl bet proved to be a very sore loser. He lost $700 on a game in 2013 and was so angry that he killed his friend over it and was sentenced to life in prison. His name is Eddie Robertson from Newark. Before he shot and killed his friend, he screamed, "They cheated my team," referring to the Super Bowl bet that he wagered. He had made the bet with a longtime friend, Talif Crawley. The bet was that the San Francisco 49ers would win the Super Bowl, but they lost to the Baltimore Ravens after a highly disputed no call that some believe means the San Francisco team technically won the game. But that's not how the Super Bowl saw it, and Eddie was out $700. In the days that followed, Eddie was so mad that he refused to pay up. When his friend approached him on the street and asked him for the money, Eddie screamed at him, pulled out a gun, and shot him 6 times. He didn't really have anywhere to go or anywhere to hide, and so the police tracked him down almost immediately. He spent 3 years behind bars before finally getting the life sentence. The family of the deceased, particularly Crawley's mother, has said they are all very happy with the ruling. 8. Death by Nintendo Wii. Keith Weens, a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, admitted to killing his wife after losing a bet involving a game they were playing on the Nintendo Wii. It happened back in August of 2011. He shot his common-law wife, Lynn Kalmering, to death. He testified in court that he shot her at almost point-blank range in the face in self-defense. This was after the bet he lost escalated into a violent episode of domestic abuse. He said that his wife made a wager of a sexual nature on the night of the shooting. He agreed to the bet, but when it came time to pony up in the bedroom, he wasn't interested. He brushed his wife aside and tried to get into bed without doing what he said he would. Naturally, Lynn was pretty upset. She accused him of not finding her attractive anymore, and the fight spiraled from there. Nevertheless, they went to bed. He woke up later in the night with his wife beating him. She was punching him in the face while he was sleeping, and so he pulled out a handgun he kept in a bedside table and shot her in the face. This is what he testified to in the British Columbia Supreme Court. He said she was crazy and that if he wouldn't have blasted her face, she surely would have killed him. However, the police investigators found that Keith had no evidence on him that he was assaulted. They found little evidence that anything had happened the way he described it. They even found that his wife's body had been manipulated after death. In other words, he tampered with the crime scene. And seeing as he's an ex-cop, he knew just how to do it. But it didn't work. and he was busted for murder. 7. The new name. A man in New Zealand lost a bet and had to change his name. He didn't change his name from Mark to Marcus or something simple, but to an enormous and absurd name that wouldn't fit on any passport or driver's license in the world. He changed his name to something with 99 characters. It was just one character short of the Department of Internal Affairs' 100-character limit. But here's what's really funny. The man forgot about the change. He did it as a joke bet and filed all the paperwork, but then never got a response and forgot that it happened. But the paperwork went through and the name was changed. He only found out when his passport recently expired and he ran into trouble since he no longer existed. At least not under his old name. He's now legally called Full Metal Havoc, more sexy, intelligent than Spock, and all the superheroes combined with Frost Nova. But he prefers being called Mr. Frost Nova. It's just easier that way. Would you go through with changing your name if that was the deal in a bet you made? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, don't forget to subscribe. 6. 22 pancakes. A man lost a bet and had to eat 22 pancakes in a single sitting. It's not quite as dramatic as shooting someone in the street, but still probably a lot less appealing than it sounds. The bet was over fantasy football. Abhi Shah would have won if it hadn't been for Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey straining his hamstring earlier on in the season. But there was nothing Abhi could do about it. His fantasy football league lost, and as a result, he was bound by his bet. He had to spend 24 hours in an IHOP. But he had one way out. His friends told him he could take 1 hour off his sentence for every 2 pancakes he ate. In the end, he managed to get out of the breakfast joint in just 11.5 hours, scarfing down 22 flapjacks. And it wasn't easy. He said it was a struggle and that the butter was extremely thick. His friends stopped by to see him as he steadily ate his way to freedom, making it less of a chore than it would have been otherwise. He really did try to eat more pancakes, but his body just couldn't take it. 5. A fatal crash. A man lost $5,500 at the casino just before he wound up murdered. Andrew Witt was captured on surveillance footage at the Caesars Windsor Casino, repeatedly making withdrawals from an ATM machine. Even in the grainy surveillance footage, it was pretty obvious he was having a hard time. His face was beet red. He looked like a man who had just flushed his savings down the toilet, and yet he kept coming back for more. Finally, a single roll at the craps table lost him $2,500, and he stormed out the front doors. No more money left to squander. Just 1 hour after leaving the casino, Andrew was dead. He had been riding as a passenger in a vehicle belonging to his friend, Andrew Cowan. Cowan is now on trial for first-degree murder. The reason is that he drove the F-150 pickup on purpose straight through a flower bed, which he used as a ramp as if he were playing Need for Speed or Grand Theft Auto. The truck went airborne and smashed into the side of a brick building. The crash killed his friend, but he survived. When questioned by the police, Cowan said he was trying to kill them both on purpose because they were both distraught about losing all their money at the casino. But the court didn't quite buy it, as prosecutors say the deceased wasn't done with his own life yet. He had no say in the matter as his friend steered them into a wall. Either way, too much betting sent one Andrew to the grave and the other to jail. 4. Duct taped to a traffic sign. The police in Texas were called to a traffic intersection because a boy was duct taped to a stop sign. Yes, this is something you think only happens in movies about college hazing, but it indeed happened. It was a peculiar sight, and several people passing through the intersection called the police to take care of it. Then when the cops arrived, they found a man coming toward them with a knife in his hand. One of the officers shouted to drop the knife or he would be tased. But this proved to be an extreme overreaction. The guy had brought the knife to cut the other guy down from the stop sign. He was one of the ones who had taped him to it in the first place. It's because the victim, Miguel Chavez, had lost a bet over an NBA game between the Rockets and Warriors and agreed to have his friends duct tape him to the traffic sign. In the end, Chavez was cut down, nobody was tased, and the police told them not to mess around with city property again. The cops even gave the 17-year-old kid a ride home out of pity. 3. Stunned. John and Nicole Grant, husband and wife, are both huge NFL fans, but they didn't like the same team. John is a Bears fan and Nicole is a Packers fan. When the team matched up against each other, the husband and wife decided to make things interesting. They were watching the game at their local bar in Wisconsin when they went outside for a smoke break. That was where they decided to make a wager that would be very painful for the loser. Nicole agreed that if the Packers lost the match, she would allow her husband to tase her. And the Packers did indeed lose. They had to go outside the bar, and John used a stun gun to zap her in the buttock twice and once on her thigh. This was where everything went wrong. Nicole either forgot she had made the bet or simply hated her husband. You see, in Wisconsin, the possession of a taser is illegal. She called the police after getting tased to tell them what her husband did. They arrived and arrested John for the possession of an illegal weapon. He's now been stuffed into the court system and could face 6 years in prison, all because of a bet gone wrong with his vengeful wife. Talk about spite. 2. Addicted to stabbing. A gambling addict in East London also turned out to be addicted to stabbing, or at least addicted to stabbing his wife. His name is Jalal Udin, and he killed his wife, Asma Begum, by stabbing her 58 times in their apartment. And it was all because of a bet. Well, it was actually a lot of bets. His wife had complained prior to the incident that her husband sometimes beat her up if she refused to give him money that he could take to gamble with. She would have to give him money in the end just so he would stop hitting her. The employees of the William Hill Bookmakers, the place where he made all his bets, even had a rather rude nickname for him. They called him the Angry Indian because he would get so angry when losing that he would beat on the gaming machines. In total, he had defaulted on over $16,000 in loans taken out just to fuel his gambling addiction. The final straw came after he lost a big bet, went home in a furious rage, and took it out by chopping his wife to pieces. He's since been found guilty of murder. 1. The worst Robin Hood bet. Sometimes a wager can cost you everything. As reported by Vice News, a young retailer trader who prefers to remain anonymous explained how he lost everything he had on a single Robin Hood bet. The individual had moved to the U.S. at the age of 18. He started making money with a job, and by the age of 26 had $300,000 sitting in a savings account. He decided he wanted more money and started following the market. His first bet was $5,000 on AMC. This turned to $15,000, which he bet on something else, which turned into $50,000. He was making so much money that he decided to go all or nothing. He leveraged a bet under an underlying Alibaba stock, investing $300,000. It was every single liquid asset in his account. This was in February. Fast forward to April. His mother warned him to get out and take what money he could because the stock was sinking. Instead, he put in another $100,000. He now had $400,000 riding on this single stock. When he woke up one morning, the stock had dropped to almost nothing and his $400,000 was gone. He had to shut down his Robinhood account, walking away with barely enough money to pay his rent. After 8 years of saving, he was back at the same place he was when he was 18. Thanks for watching. What's the craziest bet you've ever made? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you next time. Bye.